So I'm going to start tonight by prefacing my comments that I've witnessed and apparently have been a part of some forms and some documentation through Scottsbluff County that I was not even aware of. So that's why I'm here tonight. So regarding, I got a couple of different things for it. Regarding the request for a new liaison, Brenda sought the advice of Heather Hoschild and myself about how to deal with her challenging relationship with Mr. Knapper. We talked about it, Heather and I. We suggested that maybe Commissioner Blue might be someone to reach out to. I set up the meeting in my office between Brenda and Mike Blue. I had Mike Blue come in a half hour before, and I said, if you change, I suggested a new liaison, and I said, if you change the liaison and the problems persist, we have to look at Brenda. If you change the liaison and the problems go away, then we have to look at Commissioner Knapper. Mike agreed. We had a meeting, approximately 2.5 hours, of which I hardly said anything at all. At the end of the meeting, Commissioner Blue and Brenda discussed Commissioner Blue's request for her to make a written request to you all for change in a new liaison. They talked about, Commissioner Blue and Brenda, about what should be contained in that letter, went back and forth. He told her to run it by the tourism board, kind of get the buy-in of the tourism board. She said she wasn't going to run it by Melissa Price, because Melissa was brand new on the board. She'd only been to one meeting, didn't feel it was fair to her, to Melissa Price. And so that's what Brenda did. I was told later that Mr. Blue denied that that was even what he said. I didn't hear that secondhand. I was in the room, and it most certainly was said and requested of Brenda. As to the orientation of new board members, Mr. Knapper said that he wanted Brenda to give him the material so he could see what they were. Well, you've been on the tourism board for 6 years, I think, since you've been a commissioner. And now all of a sudden we're just requesting these. Why didn't we request these earlier?
Can I answer your question?
Sure, as long as it's not cutting into my time.
You know, I would only say, and Jason kind of cautioned me of this early on, and really the intent of this is public comments, and that we're here to listen to what the public has to say within reason, and beyond that, it's really not we're not going to make a decision on anything, and to have extended conversation back and forth is not what this is intended for. Is that what you were describing to me, Jason?
Yes.
So I would only say that, because this will go from a 30-minute to possibly 40-minute discussion into a 2-hour and 3-hour if it starts to become a give and take.
Right.
And we're not, and I'll certainly suggest that some are possibly agreeing with what you're saying, some are possibly not in the audience and up here.
Agreed.
And you can say whatever thoughts you have to say, and yeah, now I'll give you an extra 30 minutes. I mean, 30 seconds, all right.
So, continuing on the reviews and evaluations, I had heard that Commissioner Knapper was going to do what was called a 360 review on Brenda. I sent an email to Lisa. One of the questions in the email said, are we not following the policies of the Personnel Board? I'm the chair of the Personnel Board. We're holding everybody else, and those evaluations and how they're done and the form used is prescribed in the personnel manual. So for him to review her in that manner versus other officials that he may supervise, deviates and does not allow for equalization among reviews and fairness to the employees. And I have a problem with that. As to the website, we are thankful that MIPS allowed us to do our did our website for us. Was training provided to the officials? No formal training. It was, you go out, you call this person at MIPS, make arrangements. Any new implementation of anything requires that we reevaluate at the end of the time to determine, did we do it right, did we do it wrong, what can we do better? We should have done several things better. Some of the offices had no problems. Other offices struggled. Some still don't have anything done. Specifically, Brenda reached out to me, and I hooked her up with the person in my office who helped me with ours. And Caitlin did everything she could for Brenda, got everything uploaded. But Caitlin also took a vacation in the middle of this. And why this is important is there was a write-up that was done of Brenda. And my name is on it. And actually Melissa Price's name is on it. And it sets out that in the write-up that Brenda engaged with John Ernie, Lisa Ryan, and me within the past week. That write-up sets out what John Ernie and Lisa Ryan said when they were contacted by Commissioner Knapper, but Commissioner Knapper never contacted me. And I'm guessing because what I had to say would not fit his narrative. The write-up gives me credit for the first and second warnings to Brenda on the subject of not having information on the website. I don't supervise Brenda. I don't have authority over Brenda. And to have my name on that write-up is just beyond comprehension. Additionally, Melissa Price, her name is on there for the third write-up on that very same item. Melissa Price works for Scottsbluff Public Schools. She doesn't have authority over anyone in Scottsbluff County to write them up. I don't know what's going on, but when you put my name on a write-up, that is disturbing, fraudulent, possibly illegal. I don't really know. But I demand that my name be taken off of there. Melissa Price's name should be removed from there. She has no authority whatsoever. And I don't know how we got to this, that you're doing that. I don't know if you put my name on it. I don't know if Lisa put my name on it. I heard in the newspaper, well, I read in the newspaper, that you were absolving all of the responsibility for those write-ups to Lisa. That's what it said in the Star Herald.
You got 1 minute.
That just because, as Brenda's supervisor, you are the one in charge. And we rely on HR to give us advice. But that does not absolve you of any responsibility for learning and knowing HR. If you supervise people, you have to know that. Opportunities are provided free of charge all through the year. Because of what's gone on, I think there needs to be a redefining of liaison. You commissioners hire your elected or appointed officials. Let them do their jobs. A liaison acts as a go-between, not a boss in the office day-to-day directing activities. Just because of everything that's happened, that my name is on there, I have it. So I know it's there. I think you should resign. I think Lisa should be reprimanded because she deserves some responsibility in this as well. And I would call for that. And if I don't know Melissa Price at all, but if she participated knowingly in that, she should be removed from the tourism board as well. Because that's wrong on so many levels.
All right.
As a direct result of her absence, key events were canceled, leading to significant economic consequences. One such event was scheduled for April 22nd meeting with sports tourism representatives who planned to visit High Plains Hot Air Balloon Company for an introduction to hot air ballooning with the possibility of a flight. The cancellation of this meeting alone resulted in a $3,000 revenue loss for my company. But the financial impact extended far beyond us. Local lodging, entertainment, and restaurants also lost income. And more importantly, our community lost an invaluable opportunity to exposure. Western Nebraska, with all its natural beauty and rich history, missed out on a chance to be showcased as a premier tourist destination. The role of a tourism director, this is on your website. The official responsibility of the tourism director is clear. The tourism director is responsible for promoting and supporting tourism in Scottsbluff County. The tourism director is also responsible for the development and implementation of programs to market Scottsbluff County as an attractive destination for conventions and tourism trade. Brenda has not only met, but exceeded this responsibility. In fact, she is the reason my husband and I moved here. Without her outreach and support in bringing us to Old West Balloon Fest, we would not have chosen to make Scottsbluff County our home. Without her dedication, the U.S. National Hot Air Ballooning Championships would not have come to our community, not once, but twice now. The impact of these championships speaks for itself. In 2022, Scottsbluff County saw a $1.2 million increase in lodging and sales tax revenue. That is a direct result of Brenda's leadership and vision. Tourism is not an abstract concept. It is a well-documented economic driver, and we have the numbers to prove it. The definition of tourism is a commercial organization and operation of vacations and visits to places of interest. It is about attracting people from outside our area, ensuring they stay longer, and maximizing their economic impact. I believe the issue at hand is a difference of vision. Some member of the council may believe that sports tourism is the future of Scottsbluff County. I do not disagree that sports tourism can play a role, but we must be realistic about what types of sporting events will generate actual tourism dollars for our community. Sports tourism, what works and what doesn't. Sports tourism is defined as a form of travel where people travel to, participate in, or witness sporting events, encompassing both active participation in sports and attending the events like major championships or tournaments. The U.S. National Hot Air Ballooning Championships is a national sporting event that draws spectators and competitors from across the country. Similarly, the Gravel National Cycling events participants and visitors to explore our area and spend money in our community. But let's be honest. Regional Little League softball tournaments do not bring spectators from across the country. If you attend one, you will see families bring their own food, attend only the games, and then return to their hotels. Once their team loses, they go home. They are not visiting our restaurants, attractions, or local businesses in any meaningful way. At the last meeting, a suggestion was made that moving the tourism office to save $6,000 could allow that money to be spent on paying umpires. But why would you spend that money when the games are already officiated by local high school students? Instead, why not use that money for a youth ballooning camp, which is a STEM-focused program that teaches children about the science and math behind hot air balloons? Public tourism in Scottsbluff County is clear: increase visitor stays and maximize their spending within our community. We need to prioritize attracting visitors who will not only attend events, but will explore our attractions, stay in our hotels, dine in our restaurants, and invest in our local businesses. The economic impact of tourism is undeniable. In 2023, 189,829 visitors came to Scotts Bluff and Agate Fossil Beds National Monuments. These visitors spent $12,990,000 in communities near the parks.
1 minute, Colin.
Yes. This spending supported 171 local jobs. The cumulative benefit to our local economy was $15,318,000. These are the results of effective tourism planning and leadership. These are the results of a strategic vision that understands what truly drives economic growth in our community. Brenda Lacey has been instrumental in these successes. Suspending her at a time when tourism planning is critical is not just a personnel decision, it's a decision with real economic consequences for our entire community. We must recognize the value she brings and the impact of her leadership. Tonight I asked you to consider what kind of future you want for Scottsville County.
Only on that is detrimental to the athletes that we are trying to push out of here. So like, I know that my son, when he was in high school, you know, they not only looked at football, they didn't just look at his size, they looked at what were his other activities, what are his, you know, what other things go on, and focusing only on sports tourism eliminates money to things like they said, the zoo, the hot air balloon fest, opportunities for these athletes to be able to volunteer with these volunteer hours. Sports is not the only way to go to college. I can tell you my son was also a very gifted musician. He was in all 4 high school musicals, and I can tell you that every music scholarship that came his way was above and beyond anything that a sports scholarship could even come close to. So to be able, you know, I want to see us invest not only in sports, but invest in music, invest in arts, invest all over, because our kids need these opportunities. We need the tourism here, sure. We need to give our kids the opportunities to be able to volunteer at these things. They need to be able to be given these opportunities to experience other things. What happens when sports goes away? Because not every athlete plays the rest of their life. They need to have something else. If I were to be coming to, as a travel parent, if I'm looking at going for travel tournaments and setting up relationships, you build relationships with different hosts, I'd be rather concerned. We all saw how he really just came after Brenda. And according to what was said in the Star Herald, now he's gone after Lisa. So who's next?
I would only say,
I'm somewhat open to sports tourism. I think we have some really fabulous facilities around here. We have some really great events that come to Scottsbluff County. If somebody needs to tell you about the Balloon Fest that's here, we have an issue because it's top notch. It brings a ton of people here. We need to keep supporting things like that, and we need to keep doing things that bring people like that in. But when the biggest revenue weekend in our whole year is the Little League tournament that's done from Scottsbluff and Gearing, I can promise you sports tourism is a big deal. They bring their mom and their dad and grandma and grandpa, and I hate them as much as anybody. I'm a sports mom. We don't go everywhere, but they tear my hotel up, and I hate them. But we charge them a pretty penny to be there, and so I'll take them because I'm going to make money off of them. So I'm somewhat on the opposite end of this. I say that we need to continue to look at all of this, that there is stuff in sports tourism. We have a lot of great things going on here already, and we need to keep pushing for them to keep going. But there's a lot going on in sports tourism. whether it's the Pioneers, I mean, I can't tell you how many people we have that stay across the river that come to watch the Pioneers, whether their grandson is playing for the opposite team or their grandson plays for the Pioneers. They come here to stay to watch that or whatever. WNCC brings kids in, and then we have all the hundreds of little kids. So I know that sports tourism brings lots of stuff. It's not the only thing by any means, but it's a lot, yeah.
Appreciate it.
Listen, I am also a sports mom, not totally though. I have two boys. One of them is very involved in sports. The other is more arty and music driven, and he could give, two craps about sports. I also don't really give a F about sports. I just, in general, really speaking, I'm not a big Husker fan. I'm not spending my time, doing those things. However, I do think there is a place for sports tourism. When we go out of town for sports tournaments, we spend a fair amount of money. We're going out to eat. We're spending money in the hotel rooms. We go to museums in other towns that we would never go to. We go up to Deadwood, and I'm not like, oh man, there's this really cool museum in Deadwood that I want to go to. No, we were in Deadwood for a tournament, and we had time to kill in between games, and we took the kids to do a museum. We're spending money up there. It is lucrative. I don't think anyone is trying to take away from what has already been happening in the community. Brenda has been a part of some great things. The balloon race stuff is awesome. I remember that from being a kid, and I was sad when it went away, and I'm so glad it came back, and it is profitable. The gravel race, the quick and dirty, that is profitable. I don't think anyone is trying to take away from those things. We are simply, the goal is to diversify. The goal is to bring more money into the county that can be shared. I think a lot of people are coming up here and they're getting upset because they think their piece of the pie is getting taken away, when in fact I believe Commissioner Knapper is trying to just help bake a bigger pie that everyone can have a piece of. And people want to talk about his character and ask for his resignation, and talk about his how he's conducted things. I agree he can be a little hot-headed, and there's maybe some things that he could have handled better. However, he's been publicly scrutinized extremely severely over the last 2 weeks. And a lot of that is at the hands of Brenda's boyfriend and other people in the community who have it. I don't know, it's just gotten very ugly and very personal, and I don't understand why that has happened. And everyone wants to get mad at him for how he's conducted himself, but how about Miss Lacey and her camp and how they've conducted themselves online? I just think people are fighting where there really isn't a fight to be had. Like, no one is taking away the great things that have already happened in the community. We're going to keep building them up. And there's an opportunity here to build the community up further by engaging in sports tourism. So I kind of feel like everybody's just getting their panties in a twist when they don't need to be. So, thank you.
Jimmy, I sit back there listening. I come just to see what's going on. The biggest problem I see is Google Scottsbluff County. What do you scroll down? What do you get? You get this whole argument, both sides. That isn't going to help anybody's tourism. As I have young kids at home, when I decide I'm going to go somewhere, I Google the town, and I pull up the town, and I look. Well, Google Scottsbluff, what do we got? We got this argument. We need to do what it takes. I ain't saying you should step down. I'm not saying one way or another, but we need to make amends. Both sides. I'm not here to say he's right, they're right. There's money on every side to be made. But I really think we need to pull together as a community, make amends, get on the same page, move forward, and get the money. Because, like I said, you want to track cell phones, Google a town, see what happens. That's what people see. And, well, I'm scrolling through looking for a place, oh, they're having arguments. Will it make me decide to go there? Maybe, maybe not, I don't know. I'm just saying. Google's a bad thing on both ways. So we just need to come together, get this settled down, and figure out what it takes. And if that means apologizing to somebody or, you know, on both sides, I don't know. Like I said, I haven't followed any of it in the news, I don't know. But with young kids around, that like this community, everybody's here showing support for the county. We need to just step forward, put our big boy panties on and move on and make this the great place that it is to live.
His position being liaison, I think it's in the bylaws that it specifically talks about that position being the supervisor. And the way it's certainly set up is that one commissioner is the supervisor over, and we have that with many department heads, but the supervisor over the tourism director. Number two, well, I wanted to mention, because Jim mentioned it, but I don't do Facebook, and so I haven't, I have not read one Facebook item on this subject, but I understand there's lots out there. Google maybe have lots of it, the same stuff on there as well, but I don't read that, and I somewhat do it intentionally. Because sometimes it's helpful, many times it's not. And so I choose not to do it. I would just say that, and what I've seen over the long term is that, again, this group is elected officials, and we have some other elected officials in our midst as far as register of deeds and other people, but when we have elected officials, they have the ability to voice their opinion and to help cause certain things to move in certain directions. And so they get those opportunities because they've been elected by the people. And so I just want to remind us all of that. And it's been said many times here tonight, we don't want to lose any of the things that are already happening. There's many things that are happening positive, and I appreciate those. There's many things that some would disagree how positive they are on our community. Some of the tourism events are really high on the list as far as bringing in people. One of the best ways I've heard it described is that when we start to see events that put heads in beds, that's a highly effective event. That's a high return on the investment that we have in tourism dollars. And I would suggest that those people whose businesses like Becca and maybe some others that bring in the lodging tax money want to see, and that's heads in beds. And that's what's important. That's the primary importance to those people. Again, we do have elected officials that are appointed to supervise and certainly have an opportunity to give some direction. I want you to know that as temporarily, and this is, I'll stress temporarily, I have been appointed Brenda's supervisor. And you should know that. Many of you don't know that at this point, apparently, because it's been brought up. But on a temporary basis, I'm the one that is Brenda's supervisor. Again, I would only say that we already have several sporting events going on. I think you could call balloons a sporting event. We certainly have Monument Marathon, that's a sporting event. We certainly have, we have the bike, some of the bike races that are still going on, and some bike races that hopefully will get back. And I would only say that there's that, plus other team sports that I think can be brought in and be a part of putting heads in beds. And that's still one of the major goals for the tourism group. So I just want to say that as a big picture item. And certainly we, I think, have got the message that you have some concerns that we need to do it in a way that is helpful, in a way that we can cooperate, a way that Mr. Shimmick said that we can all get along. And I agree that we need to do that. I think that there's been some concern that there's been some attempt at that and we haven't made a lot of progress. But I think that we can move that direction and be compatible with each other. And that certainly would be my goal, and I think it would be most of all of our goals for our community. And so I would only say that. If anyone else up here feels they need to comment, we can. I'd like to kind of leave it at that if we could. So with that, is there anything else?